Boa tarde, gente. Tudo bem? Ah, que bom ver essa galera. Que bom. Pois é, eu sou a TRACY MANN, do South by Southwest. Vocês podem ver que eu falo português, mas hoje eu vou falar inglês para encaixar melhor com as falas dos meus companheiros aqui, né? Mas qualquer coisa, qualquer dúvida, vocês têm tradução, vocês podem me perguntar em português uma coisa, tudo bem. I've worked with South by Southwest for 17 years. I started in 2000. I've been going to the festival since 1988, which was the second year of South by Southwest. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history. I hope a lot of you already know, but let's just go over a few of the historical points about South by Southwest, and also about the Brazilian participation, which has really been fabulous at South by Southwest, particularly in the past couple of years. And we'll talk specifically about music, Brazilian music, and South by Southwest. So, as you may know, South by Southwest was started in 1987 by a group of journalists who were involved with the local music scene in Austin, Texas. And their idea was to create an annual music conference, not unlike SEAM, but with the idea of bringing economic development to the city. There were a lot of musicians, a lot of artists living in Austin, but the money wasn't flowing in, and a lot of people were under pressure to leave, to take their bands to New York or Los Angeles. And these guys had an idea that they could turn it around if they could bring the US music business from our three main cities, Nashville, New York, and Los Angeles, to Austin, see what was happening, and support the local music scene. The event, even in the first year, was far more successful than they ever imagined. They were expecting a few hundred people. They got close to 700 people in that first year. And the event kept growing and growing and growing like that. In the early 90s, some folks who had been part of the original team started thinking about some other areas for expansion, and we got into film. We have a film festival, and also got very interested in the early technology, even just as people were starting to use personal computers. And as probably a lot of you know now, we have a whole host of programming on new technologies, new media. Things such as Twitter and Foursquare have used South by Southwest to do their product launch. So it's a very exciting mix of music, film, technology, media, gaming. There are new areas opening up all the time: style, food, sports. It's really a place where people who are trying to think big, who are interested in innovation and inspiration, and want to be with a group of like-minded people, like to come once a year, March of every year, the middle of March, in Austin, Texas, and enjoy the rich content of South by Southwest. Now, Brazil has been active in South by Southwest for about the past 6 or 7 years. It started with the advertising business, primarily from SÃO PAULO, and a few years went by, we started noticing, I was already working on the international team, helping build up South by Southwest's reputation around the world, and we started to see this crowd coming from Brazil and say, wow, what's driving that? We're not really doing any communication or any outreach, and they're just coming. So the founders, who knew that I had lived in Brazil and that I spoke Portuguese and had a connection with music industry and so forth, said, can you start developing this and bringing this out? So we started working with the Brazilian government, with the Trade and Export Apex, to support a bigger presence at our event. And I'm really thrilled to say that from 2012 to 2016, we tripled the Brazilian attendance. And I'm expecting for 2017 to have more than 600 Brazilians, which will make it our 5th largest international delegation after the UK, Canada, Australia, and Germany. So it's very exciting to see this growth and see how Brazilians are using the conference and getting excited about the conference. But one thing we're seeing too is that we have out of this whole stew of Brazilians that we have a much smaller segment from the music industry. And that's really why I brought Mark and STACEY here with me today to talk to you, because I want to see the ecosystem of the Brazilian music scene really starting to use our conference in a bigger way. So two things. One, of course, is performance in our music festival, which Stacey's going to talk about the criteria and what a band can expect if they're accepted and decide that they're going to come and play in Austin. Mark is going to talk about how you take that opportunity to play at South by Southwest and use it as a launch pad or a centerpiece for your international marketing strategy. Both two very important components if you're going to make the considerable investment that Brazilians must make to travel to Austin, to stay in Austin, etc. The biggest Brazilian acts we've ever had at South by Southwest, I guess I would have to say would be Ledini. We had Ledini in 2006. We had Criolo and Emicida in the past several years. Gilberto Gil spoke at South by Southwest when he was a minister, but he didn't perform. So we haven't had a lot of the biggest names in Brazilian music. We've had a lot of alternative bands, up-and-coming bands. Cansei de Ser Sexy was a big hit, as was Bonde de Rolê. And Stacey will probably mention a few others to you as she starts to tell you about the process of getting involved. And I would say I'm not here to really encourage a lot of bands to apply. And that may sound kind of not nice to say that. But there's a reason for that, and you'll hear that more as my colleagues enter the conversation. And the reason is that it's expensive, it's an investment. It's not like many other international festivals where you're invited to play, and your airfare is paid for, and your hotel is paid for. It's something that you invest in, and you pay for pretty much. I mean, you don't pay to perform, but you pay all your expenses because you understand that it is ground zero, not only for the US and international music business, but for all of the industries that buy music, whether it's games, it's advertising, it's films. All of the professional consumers of your art are going to be there. And so, again, this is going to have to be a big part of your strategy. My second reason personally for being here today is because I'm really excited by this growing class of music business professionals. It's mostly coming out of São Paulo. Some of it's happening in Rio, and I see, in Belo Horizonte, Porto Alegre, people are trying to kind of get their heads around what does it take to manage an international career for an artist out of Brazil. You know far better than I do that historically a lot of people are using family members, wives, husbands, brothers, cousins to act as their management and plan their strategy. But what I'm seeing is that people who are not necessarily related to artists are trying to find their way as professionals. And if you want professional development and you want access to some of the most incredible professional mentors in the industry, you want to be at South by Southwest because it's going to give you some incredible opportunities for your own professional growth, and you can come back to Brazil and do a much better job for the artists that you represent. So I'm going to turn the next part over to Stacey, and Stacey has been with our Music Fest and sales department for just reaching 10 years right now. I asked her to come on board and work with Brazil this year. We have had other people taking charge of Brazil in the past, but since Brazil in itself is such a huge country, practically the size of a continent, I felt like we needed a little special love and attention so that we'll get more of you involved with our conference. So I'm very happy to introduce Stacey and have her tell you about the process of playing at South by Southwest.
Hi. Can you hear me? Tracy did an amazing job setting everything up. So I think probably the easiest way to jump into the music festival is to correct some common misconceptions that people have and sort of tell you what the real reason for the festival is. And the first part of that, which Tracy kind of touched on, is that our event is industry-facing, first and foremost. So you hear of a lot of these famous festivals from around the world, and the US included, things like Glastonbury or Coachella, or these huge, well-known festivals, and South by Southwest is not like that. We're very different, not only in the size of our event, the sheer number of artists that come and perform, but the priority for us is to create showcases with artists from all over the world at very different spaces in their career. So they can be just starting out, or they can be a lot more established. But they all have one common goal, and that's that they have something to promote back to the industry that will help them through the years coming along their next path in their career. So our target audience is actually media and professionals before fans. So a lot of people that apply or want to come and be considered, you know, they have an amazing fan base somewhere where they're coming from, their hometown, home region, or elsewhere. And a lot of people have a goal of increasing their number of fans. But that isn't exactly what you would use South by Southwest for. That's something that comes out of what comes out of South by Southwest, if that makes sense. So your goal should be, you know, really more pointed as an artist. So looking for North American distribution or European distribution, looking for representation in different continents, booking agents, looking to sign to a larger label deal, looking to interact with other artists and pick up tours that will take you out of your home country, you know, support gigs that will help then expose you to new audiences, things like this. So I always kind of like to lay that out because while it seems like something that's very easy to understand, it's also something that people are very quick to forget. You know, we're very specific in what we do. And so similarly, the way that people come to perform for South by Southwest is we have an open submission platform. It opens in the summer, preceding the next year's event, so July typically, and it closes in October. So it's already actually closed for 2017, but this is the public-facing application platform. And for the past many years, we've used Sonic Bids, which I know a lot of people are probably familiar with, but it's an electronic way of submitting your press kit, basically, so you can upload songs and photos and videos, your bio, and links to press, and also your concert dates, past and future. And that helps us look at everything in one, you know, one snapshot, really. And then we also work directly with the industry. So we work directly with record labels, booking agents, management companies, publicists, export offices who support music export. And we work directly with them to talk about the careers that we're seeing, the artists we're interested in, or artists that they feel are priorities for them coming into the next year. And we work directly to get those artists also submitted for consideration. And then of course, there's some people who maybe don't have to necessarily apply. Like we don't make Jay-Z apply and wait for us to give our feedback, but there's still a process for artists like that as well. So when we're evaluating these applications, though, we're looking, I like to say it's divided into two things. One thing is, one side, it's very simple. Is there talent? Are you skilled? You know, is the music good? Is it well representative of the genre that you're playing in? And does it transcend that genre to bring something new to the scene? And it's not just something we're hearing over and over again. Is there some fresh take? Is it exceptionally skilled? Is there just some charisma there? And that's easy to explain and also hard to defend because, of course, that's completely subjective. And what somebody might feel is well representative of an extremely talented, promising act somebody else might feel very differently, and we're aware of that. And that's sort of the tricky business of music that we're in, is that your craft is always going to be subject to somebody else's opinion. And so we then look to the second half of our criteria, which can sometimes help change our mind about that first half, depending. But because we're most interested in artists that are very serious about a professional career in music and sustaining a career in music outside of just their hometown. We are going to look at the rest as like a resume, just like a job. What have you done so far? What have you done on your own? Who has come on board since the beginning to help you? Who else in the industry, if it's a manager or an actual manager or somebody who works, in booking, even at a small level or big level, regional, national. What other teams have come on board that exemplify that they believe in you as well? They're taking the chance. You're building a team. What kind of press has written about you, perhaps, again, from your home region or beyond? What kind of tours have you booked? If you're playing regularly, if you're touring outside of the country or around into other territories, what kind of opening gigs maybe have you played to support larger artists who have toured in your country? All of these things that add up to prove that there is not just this talent, but there is a sustainable career, whether or not it's at the beginning, middle, or more established end of that. But there's evidence that, that this is beyond just being a talented musician, that this is a career that you, as an artist, are taking seriously, and that other people in the industry and press are paying attention to because they take it seriously as well. And then combined those two things, which really many more than that, but those two sides of our evaluation come together to inform our opinion about whether or not we'd like to accept you, whether or not this is the correct time to accept the artist as well. Sometimes both of those things are there, but it doesn't seem to make sense for that year if there's not a new project to promote, a new record to promote, a new tour, things like that. And so those combined kind of inform our decision. And then we kind of take it from there. And as TRACY already explained, this is different in that we're not buying we're not making offers to the artist. We are saying, okay, we're on board, yes. And then the rest is up to the artist. And depending on where you come from, we understand that that's a pretty significant investment. So the cost of travel, visa, if you are trying to get other shows around in the US that are going to pay, then if you're trying to get a work visa, that's even more of a process and more expensive. And being able to stay and eat and party and bathe and rent your gear and things like that. Of course, we know all of this adds up. So that's another reason why we have to be really careful, and we have to heavily scrutinize our applications, because for a lot of artists that are starting out, being invited to play an event like South by Southwest is very, very exciting, and they might be willing to spend every last cent to come and do it. But if it's not the right time, then you've just spent all this time and energy just to basically come and have some free beers for a few days, and you didn't really see a return on that investment, and we don't want that to happen. We want something good to happen when you come, and sometimes it's not a major label record deal, but sometimes it's picking up that tour with that. It's as small as making friends with a band from another country, something like that. But you have, as the artist, it has to be the right time. And you have to be willing to invest. So that's a personal decision for the artist and the artist teams who maybe can provide that support. And fortunately for some, maybe they get support as well from export offices. And then it's a decision for us if we think that this is the right time and that we can provide the right setting for that artist. So this all comes together, and we do this for about, we get roughly 10,000 applications. So there's a lot of interest. And we book a very tiny 2,000 plus acts. So actually, it's a good return if you think about it. We do accept a good number of our applicants, but it makes for a long and arduous week of performing and networking and schmoozing and trying to be on time, trying to navigate a city that maybe some people aren't used to. But somehow it's a very magical event that never fails to surprise even me every year in how successful it is for both the industry and the artists and the fans that come to kind of just watch from the periphery. So it's great, and even more beyond the performance, it's an amazing professional experience, as Tracy said too. So where we program the festival at night, in the daytime, it is talks like this, it's mentor sessions, it's trade show exhibitions, it's parties, it's mixers, it's keynote addresses by very influential members of the industry and also iconic leaders in music. There's no shortage of inspiration and learning opportunities from the professional side as well, even if you're not a performer or even if your bands aren't performing that year and you want to expand your network. This is a global meeting place at South by Southwest. While many people may not know Austin, Texas, as a city apart from how it relates to South by Southwest, when you come during March, there's a small pocket of every part of the globe that up in Austin. So this is a place not just to expand your horizons for the North American industry, but European and Asian and beyond, really. You can make contacts for Canada, you can make contacts for Africa. You can, there's no limit. So it's a really wonderful, exciting place to be on so many levels, but we really do want to, encourage that from a professional side as well as the artist applying to consider to perform.